Hi there and welcome to Leading Your Best Life. This is Lee Farnell here, and today I want to talk about something super important in business, life, relationships, coaching, sport, getting the best out of people. And it's called feedback, constructive feedback, and even having a difficult conversation, and some of the rules and the science and the principles. Let me tell you what it's all about. Stay tuned. If you sell business to business, you really do need to be listening to what I'm about to say in the next 30 seconds. Here is a package of coaching training to actually transform your sales. We think you can triple your sales in the next 14 days with this CZ6 system. You can increase your average deal size and your profit margins. You can motivate your team and yourself to perform better. You can close more deals faster, so you increase your conversion rate quicker, and you reduce stress and have a lot more fun in your business. This is a super comprehensive package where you are going to get a whole lot of coaching training. Forget that. You're going to get results. You're going to get inspiration. You're going to change your life in the next 14 days or even less. Listen to what people say. These tools have had a real increase to my business. We've increased and hit our targets by a factor of 10. Absolutely fantastic. Sales are up 28% and 40% up on last year to date. It goes on and on. There's been a 40 to 50% improvement. It goes on and on, folks. Find out more. If you're committed and serious about growing your sales, you'll find out more. Click the button below and get involved. And I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Well, I'm putting this podcast together because in my immediate circle, I've seen in the recent days an absolute mismanagement of feedback in more places than one, from more people than one, and the very poor handling of an issue, breaking all the rules of what I would call Kaizen, a mindset of continuous and never-ending improvement, a mindset of a code of excellence, just junior management, and very bad emotional intelligence and ego. It's just dysfunction. And of course, what I know straight away is it's going to lead to average to below average performance. That is to say that the ecosystem is now going to contaminate potential of people and players in that organisation. People who are good, people who have talent, people who have commitment have now been poisoned by this massive distraction, which comes back to what Goleman talks about in the book Emotional Intelligence. A group of highly talented people can appear very dumb and perform very poorly when there is high levels of friction, high levels of disharmony, and in this case, high levels of distrust, because certain people in the group have clearly said and done things which are essentially untrue and in fact lies. But that's a whole other story. But let's get down to, how do you deal with feedback? And again, we talk about SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and relevant time frame. Feedback. Let's talk about SMART. Something goes wrong, whether it be in sport, the way a player throws the ball or kicks the ball, or it could be the way someone in sales prospects or doesn't prospect, or doesn't do needs discovery, or doesn't fill out reports, or arrives late, or has poor performance, or is rude, or whatever the particular behaviour is. So if we're looking to correct that behaviour or give feedback, we use the SMART framework: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, relevant, with time frames. And when we say specific, we say address the behaviour, not the person. You're not calling the person an idiot or a fool or a loser or hopeless. It's, this is the behaviour, the specific behaviour that I'm seeing. Now, coming straight back to a point that is relevant in this case study is your own emotional intelligence, particularly if you're a sporting coach and you just happen to have lost a game by a goal that you could have won. Your emotions may be running a little too high. How do you bring your emotions back in? And how do you, by the way, use your emotion intelligently? That's why we call it emotional intelligence. How am I using my emotion intelligently here, as distinct from dumb, where we call seagull management, or seagull coaching, where you just dump a pile of shit on people, yelling and screaming, make a lot of noise and walk away. Not constructive, not specific, measurable, achievable, relevant. So it does require a degree of emotional intelligence. But let's just talk about this: specific, measurable. These are the measurable differences I want. We want to score more goals. We want to make more sales. We want to get a higher conversion rate. And you link it get back to what are the goals we've all agreed on, as in high-performing sales or high-performing meetings or high-performing project management or high-performing, punctuality, whatever the area is. Achievable. Let's talk about the steps that can be taken. What are some steps? And again, you can use the Socratic approach and ask the person, what steps do you think you could be taking? And get them to delve down and reflect. Again, as we say in NLP, you're doing a transderivational search. You're opening a loop in their mind because the brain hates an unresolved question. So you start that thinking internally rather than tell what you need to do and what you need to do and you're not, Again, intelligent use of feedback as distinct from dumb use of feedback. And let's just deal with this one in particular. And I'm looking at an article here, Constructive Feedback, and there's a great article, by the way, in Harvard Business Review. I'm putting together actually slides on this. If you want a copy of them, then I'll send them to you. Harvard Business Review, where was it? Let me just tell you when it is. But of course, Harvard Business Review has done an article on this over the years, July 1st, 2023. There's many articles on the internet about this, but so many people practice it badly, yet they call themselves managers and coaches, or even CEOs and managing directors. Please, if you're not an expert in feedback and constructive, and this is, by the way, it's not just giving feedback, but how good are you at receiving feedback? If we're talking about a Kaizen culture, a continuous and never-ending improvement culture, if we're talking about a Kaizen mindset, then not only may you as a coach or leader give feedback, have coaching conversations, but be willing to receive feedback. Oh no, I'm too important. Oh, my ego, I'm a legend. I've done an MBA. You can't tell me. I'll give you feedback, but I'm not going to receive feedback because I'm way too important, way too smart, way too far up the food chain. Mate, that's just the point why you're not a level 5 leader, if you do not have the humility to sit down and actually calmly have a conversation on how do we improve around here versus no. If there's a conversation, I'll do the telling on what needs to be done, not the actual consensus building or collaboration. But let's just deal with 10 tips to help your feedback make a positive impact. 1, choose the right time and place. Now, what we know also is it's best to give feedback as soon as possible after the event while the reference points are still clear. I've seen a situation just in the last few days where people have gone, there was something that happened last week, but they're going, oh no, there was something that happened a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we just didn't bring it up. But now we're going to use it against you. We're ganging it up like it's in the black book. If you've got a black book where you're using it to gang up information, you can be certain the trust in the organisation will be low and you will not get high performance. You want to sort it out as quickly as possible. As they say, problems are not like wine or cheese. They do not get better with age. That is, they do not get better the longer you sit on them like an egg, hoping that somehow they're going to go away or I won't use them. Give the person the feedback straight away. And that's where you need to, right up front, as part of the fruit bowl, as part of the context of the relationship, say, we're going to have regular chats. We'll meet once a week or once a fortnight, have a coffee, or just sit on a park bench or go for a walk, as Steve Jobs used to do, and talk. How's it going? What's going on? What have I heard? What's going on? It's like make the phone call sooner rather than later. Have the walk, have the meeting sooner rather, not a committee meeting where it's a full-on, full frontal assault. We had this the other day where the first sign of feedback was a meeting with 6 other people. We call that an ambush. We call that how to break trust. Well, they're employees, they better get used to it. Mate, if you're serious about what we call discretionary effort, if you're serious about people actually putting their heart and soul into a job and having passion, you want adult to adult relationships, not parent-child relationships. You're my employee, I'm the hero. You know, like Donald Trump, my seat's higher than yours and you have to sit in a lower seat with looking at me with the sun behind me so that you're squinting your eyes as well. Like, it's all about power and ego. Mate, get off your throne, because sooner or later you will be a pile of ashes and no one will care. Your ego, get your ego out of this if you're serious about the organisation performing to its best. Again, be it a sporting team or whether it be a company or a family. It's best to give feedback as soon as possible while the reference points are still clear. Feedback is less constructive the longer you wait to arrange the meeting or sit on the feedback for 1, 2, 3, or 6 months. Feedback is less constructive the longer you wait to arrange the meeting. As long as you feel like you can provide constructive feedback, then the sooner the better. Tattoo that on you, the sooner the better. 2, set the right tone for the meeting. The next thing is to consider the manner in which you give the feedback. If you want to arrange a meeting to provide negative or constructive feedback, try not to do this while tensions are running high. If you feel yourself being too angry and unable to censor yourself properly, it might be best to wait until you can have a conversation in a more neutral tone. At the same time, the tone should be professional and of course you sound confident. For positive constructive feedback, try to use an inspiring and friendly tone, mate. Well, that's why we say feedback is feed forward. The purpose of the feedback is so that we all move forward, so that the organisation moves forward, so that performance moves forward, so that we get better and better and better. It's not you're not a school teacher, you're not scolding. It's a constructive approach. And therefore, point 3, emotional intelligence is the key. So as we say, point 1, choose the right time and place for feedback. 2, set the right tone for the meeting. 3, emotional intelligence is the key. Further to the previous point, emotions can run high. So particularly when criticism is concerned, anger can cause you to attack the recipient unfairly, and this will have consequences. It won't make you or the recipient feel better and could bleed into the work environment, or more to the point, have ongoing consequences rather than we've dealt with it, let's move on. Define what the purpose of the feedback is. The purpose of the feedback is to improve project management. The purpose of the feedback is to help you make more sales. The purpose of the feedback is to help you score more goals. The purpose of the feedback is to help you be a better coach, whatever it happens to be. 5, the content of the feedback. You should be able to clearly identify the areas of discussion. That's again why you talk about what was the problem, what was the observed behaviour, what was seen, what was heard, what was the impact of what was seen or was heard. Is that inside our code? Is that outside our code? How are we going to fix it so that it doesn't happen again? You know, what was going on in your mind to actually behave that way? What was your decision-making process? How do we change that decision-making process so that you have a better, more constructive, more empowering, more beneficial decision-making process? 6, don't skirt around the issue. Don't duck, dive, dilute, make a joke of it. Deal specifically, directly with the issue. 7, encourage a dialogue. Employees and people you're talking to want to have the opportunity to add. So what do you think? How do you feel about it? What was going on in your mind? How do you think we can fix it? You know, what do you think the impact of it is? Now, by the way, I've done some videos on it, and this is also covered in our leadership video and guidelines we have in regard to feedback. I particularly like the Ken Blanchard guidelines in terms of 1 Minute Manager. Be respectful and stay on point. Don't keep ducking. Since you're dealing with another person, you've got to remain respectful during the meeting. Keep on point. Avoid language that would cause the recipient to go defensive, particularly around vague. A lot of people are saying, well, I've heard from other people. You know, it'll be better to lead with phrases like I'm worried about, or I've observed behaviours, or I've become aware of, rather than phrases which start like you're doing this wrong. You've stuffed this up. You've stuffed this up again. You know, you're an idiot. Keep to the point and don't make the meeting personal. That is to say, let's focus on the behaviours and the systems that we used and the decision-making processes that we used, not the person. Mate, as a human being, you're great. People love you. You know, you're great at a whole lot of things, but we're talking about this one behaviour here. You know, you're great at 99% of other things, but I'm talking about this one behaviour we need to sort out right now. Is that okay with you? 9, give suggestions for improvement. The most important part of the feedback should be working with the employee or the player or the coach on how they can improve. I think the GROW model is particularly good. G, what are the goals? R, what is the current reality? O, what are the options to sort this out and fix it? And W, who's going to do what by when as we move forward? Let's write that down and let's do a follow-up. So you can use the GROW model to sort this out. As they say, the suggestions for improvement, the options for improvement, the brainstorming of ideas for improvement, do it collaboratively, co-create that plan. The O, we say involvement equals ownership equals commitment. You want people committed to a new course of action, then get them involved in the plan. And finally, point 10, recap the most important points. So before we end the meeting, let's recap what do we agree on here. And in fact, I say write it down and say we're going to meet again in a week's time or 2 weeks' time or a month's time and check how's it going. I want to help you move forward and realise your full potential so that the organisation or the team or the club can realise its full potential. I'm doing it in a spirit of cooperation, a spirit of harmony, a spirit of I want us all to fly. We're each as one-winged angels. Only when we embrace do we fly. If I think I'm in the business of clipping your wings or putting a rocket up you, you're playing the wrong game. Look, I hope this helps. Feedback is feed forward. As Blanchard said all those years ago, feedback is the breakfast of champions. And if we're all in the business of Kaizen and being the best we can be, then we all at times need to get feedback, whether we like it or not sometimes, because as I think it was in The Road Less Travelled, the truth will set you free, but first it might hurt you or piss you off. And why does it hurt you or piss you off? Because you're doing your darndest. You're doing your darndest with your current level of skill, competency and knowledge. But what the coach or the manager or the helpful person is trying to do is to expand your knowledge, expand your competency, expand your knowledge. Sometimes stretching the comfort zone is a little bit painful, but on the other side of it, you improve. So don't take it personally. Just go, what can I learn from it? How do I improve? Now, by the way, I do also like Ray Dalio's point of who is giving me the feedback. He talks about the believability matrix. So if it's, for example, a 3-time Olympian giving me feedback on how I can improve my water polo, I'll listen. But at the same time, who knows, a 10-year-old may be able to observe as well. But at the same time, I might give a higher weighting to a 3-time Olympian than I will a 10-year-old. At the same time, if I'm talking money to someone who is completely broke or someone who has a string of broken relationships, I might think twice as to who I'm going to be listening to compared to the person that's had a long-term, healthy, happy, successful marriage or relationship. As Tom Hopkins said way back, never take advice from anyone more messed up than you are. So here, you can look it on the internet yourself, but if Harvard Business Review and others, and Ken Blanchard and others, use these guidelines, I highly recommend you follow them, not the least of which David Parkin, one of the super best coaches in AFL, or Rick Charlesworth. There are ways to give feedback. There's a science to giving and receiving feedback, and if you're committed to living your best life, then it really is about getting good at both giving and receiving feedback. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. I'm Lee Farnell, and take some good feedback in the meantime.